So this is a simple PowerPoint presentation for the class based on an episode from Ulysses by James Joyce and a theory of my choice, in this case post-colonialism. And since I chose this combo, you can't do this analysis on this chapter. Just choose a different episode or theory. This slide here is the title page. Note that I don't have some generic title, just like PowerPoint on Ulysses. Be more creative than that. I've also listed my name, the course name, the college name, and the date, just like in the standard MLA essay. The second slide, after the title slide, I did a brief summary of the novel. You can do a summary of the chapter instead if you wish, just as long as you explain the relevant characters and conflict, so that the viewer of your PowerPoint will understand the plot. Pretend that he's never heard of Ulysses before. Also make sure to introduce the title of the novel and the author's full name if you haven't done so in the title slide. The summary doesn't have to be that long, only containing important details needed for the analysis. You want to keep the font readable, not too small, so your viewers can pause the video and read the contents. The same goes with the episode, which I highlighted in the following slide, a quick summary of the characters and setting. Here the time is 5 p.m. at Barney Kern's tavern. The narrator is an unnamed figure, whom we later learn is a debt collector. Thus, unlike the stream of conscious narration in all the other episodes so far, this episode is all in first person. And as with any first person narration, one looks for reliability, as in, can I trust this narrator's account of the events? The chapter is told like a bar tale, peppered with plenty of slang and vulgarity and exaggeration. The narrator is not the main character in the chapter, though. That would be Leopold Bloom, who stopped in to look for Martin Cunningham to go over the welfare of the Digham family. There's a belligerent drunk, simply known as the Citizen. Surrounded by other patrons and his mongrel dog Gary Owen, the Citizen picks on Bloom because he's Jewish, although Bloom insists that he's an average Irishman. The Citizen also has one working eye, the other one patched, thus resembling the Cyclops figure in the Homeric tale. After summarizing the chapter or episode, I now begin my analysis based on the literary theory of my choice, in this case post-colonialism. Because the Citizen's hostility toward the foreign-born Bloom, despite the fact that Bloom is born in Ireland, the conflict between the native son and the immigrant provides a post-colonial tension in the episode. It is the classic binary of the post-colonial theory, the colonist and the colonized. Now, I'm using this term post-colonialism loosely to describe the conflicting cultural ideologies. I know that Bloom is hardly colonized. His family was from Hungary, who immigrated to Ireland before he was born. And even the Irish can be considered as the colonized under British imperialism. Furthermore, post-colonialism often refers to third world populations such as Near East, Middle East, or Far East, while those in Jewish background comes out of the diaspora, the dispersion that leaves them without a home, much like Bloom. There's also a strong disagreement within post-colonial communities, particularly when it comes to religion, such as Muslims and Jews. However, here post-colonialism refers to the West, mainly European and Anglo-based communities, and the non-West, which again is the rest of the world. Thus, the episode in question can be a product of post-colonial analysis where one considers who is defining whom. The Citizen questions Bloom's citizenry, even though Bloom was born in Ireland. It is the Citizen who determines Bloom's cultural identity, even if it's wrong. Bloom later understands that he's being defined as different, as the other, and thus begins to align his identity with the Jewish people, who has for centuries, before and after, been persecuted throughout Europe and Britain. Note how I use the source support, finding passages to quote and cite by page number. Interestingly, this is really the first time in the novel that Bloom acknowledges openly his Jewish identity. Other Dubliners have done it for him, behind his back, like Buck Mulligan at the library. But Bloom often hints at his Jewish upbringing, even though he seems to align more with Christianity than anything else. Look at the Lotus Eaters episode if you don't believe me. Here in Cyclops, he is proudly Jewish, even outing other Jewish people that have assimilated to the general Western culture, Marx, Mendelssohn, Spinoza. Furthermore, the episode is not looking for a two-state solution to this conflict. Even when Bloom preaches about love over hate, such deep-rooted racism like anti-Semitism and Western prejudice cannot be easily solved in a bar. Joyce leaves the episode with Bloom fleeing from the scene victorious as the citizen throws a bread box and misses. But I digress. This analysis does bring up an interesting point about cultural identity. As Bloom stumbles with his arguments against racism, his response is similar to the subaltern, those underclassed in society, trying to educate the privileged on who they are. I go into detail about the subaltern and postcolonial theory in another lesson, but it is this identity dilemma of when a person can only speak using the language of the oppressor. That would mean that the oppressor is being convenienced, while the oppressed, the colonized, the other, must be the one that accommodates. The other is always trying to identify themselves under the colonial system. But why can't those in charge be asked to change their ways and learn the other language instead? And we see the struggle of the colonized other even today, where racial prejudices and discrimination have not lessened but worsened. Not only do we see a world far from equality and equity in the 21st century, but we see the potential of political representation and social media willing to express many multiple cultural identities as well as multicultural communities on the rise. It is important to relate these themes in Ulysses to contemporary mores in the concluding slide rather than repeat your thesis. It broadens the analysis to another level beyond the covers of the book. And the last slide would be your works cited of all the sources you quoted or I quoted in this PowerPoint. Make sure those works cited are MLA formatted. It's also important only to cite those you've used and exclude those you might have researched but didn't need. Also, the sources need to be in alphabetical order. So that's it. That's the PowerPoint. Simple, straightforward. Again, don't need to have this voiceover. The content of this slide should be enough.